fast-changing business environment. With KNC Radio and TV, marketing simplified. Want to sell your goods, products, and services? KNC Radio and TV offers you budget-friendly pricing. KNC advertising packages allow you to reach your creative goals while meeting your quarterly budget. Each package is created with your marketing needs in mind. What package is right for you? Is it TV, radio, or online platforms? We have it all. So, love your brand and get in touch with us on 0955 589235 or 0215-223845. For more information, email us knczambia@gmail.com. Marketing Simplified.
Good day and welcome to this week's episode where we're talking all things farmers on the Conservation Farming program. This is a program that brings to you all things that are related to farmers. We discuss from the nitty-gritties on what is happening in the farming world and how can someone be part of the farming world by letting you know things that are going on. Of course, this is a program that is brought to you by the Conservation Farming Unit. We know the topics that have to do with farming. I'm not alone on the set, and of course I have somebody who's the expert, who's always on the ground to ensure that this is what's happening. Dr. Oliver Blair.
It's my pleasure being here, and welcome all the viewers.
Okay, that's really great. It's great to have you on the set today because I know that when I see you, it's all information. I know you bring to the scene such great important information, what's happening on the ground with the farmers.
Oh yes, we are on the ground and we know exactly what is happening there because this is our job, to support our farmers.
Exactly. So for that one person who's watching us for the first time and is wondering, what is the Conservation Farming Unit? What do you do?
Conservation farming mainly has got a mandate of a promotion of conservation agriculture, and conservation farming program here in Zambia. As you are aware, due to changes in climate change, the experiences that we've had, and this year we are hit, severely, it has to do with climate change. So in 1996, this organization was formed in Zambia, to spearhead the promotion of conservation farming programs that counteracts conventional kind of farming, so that our farmers are able to adapt to new ways of doing farming.
So I know you are you're the Deputy Central Regional Manager. So I know in the Central Province you cater that as your region. It's your baby in terms of what you do. But there's something that you bring to the table as conservation farming that you're an implementer of, which is something that is called the Farm to Market Alliance, which is our concentration for today's episode. Is the Farm to Market Alliance. Someone who's wondering, what is it?
Yes, thank you so much, Rita, for that good question. Most of our farmers, those that we've worked with, are so much aware that we've been in existence, like I mentioned earlier on, from 1996, and the major program we were doing is the promotion of conservation agriculture program, and we were funded for many years by the Norwegian government, over 20 years, and later on the British government came on board through DFID. This time around it's called FCDO. Came in to support the financial support for this program, and the financial support came to an end last year in March, and in July, last year we were privileged enough as Central Region, to pilot, this program called Farm to Market Alliance, and the mission of this alliance, is to make markets, work better, for our farmers.
So now, when we look at Farm to Market, we're looking at the produce, moving it from the farm. So your care starts from the farmer themselves and their crops, and then taking it to the market.
Yes, yes, exactly. That is how it is because the major problem that our small farmers face is to do with marketing. It is not secret. Most of our commercial farmers in Zambia, they've already market.
An
Others
established market,
export.
yeah.
Yes, established market. Others they sell abroad or locally and so on. But it is not so. With our small scale farmers, and despite the challenges that they go through in land preparation, in the production of food, to marketing, we thought that we need to come in as Farm to Market Alliance to provide a conducive environment, where our farmers are sure, of the market. As you are aware, mostly, despite the challenges that our farmers are facing, also comes in, with the, other buyers, who swindle our farmers. And despite, being, small farmers and, maybe with small, kind of harvest that they have, to put it that way, at the end of the day, lose it out because of other buyers who come in to buy and later on they don't pay them. So we are saying that as Farm to Market Alliance, we are there to provide a system that is transparent and a system that will be able to ensure that our farmers are sure of the market of various crops.
Okay. I know we have introduced, of course, our topic for the day. And before we get into further details, let us just get to one short information clip that is coming from the commercial manager of CFU, who happens to be Mr. Swilimba Stanley.
It's Stanley Silimba. I'm the commercial stroke program manager for CFU, working under the Farm to Market Alliance, Zambia. The Farm to Market Alliance started its operations last year in July. This was actually a pilot project that was being undertaken in Central Province of Zambia in 12 districts. So the purpose of the Farm to Market Alliance was actually to connect farmers to markets, as well as ensuring that farmers have access to finance, and of course to ensure that farmers are able to access high quality inputs ranging from seeds, extending up to fertilizers, herbicides, and many more other agro inputs. So under this project, we had successfully implemented it, and a number of farmers were connected to markets in the 12 districts of Central Region. For Central Region, the districts that were under this project include Serenje, Lofunsa, Chongwe, Masaiti, Mpongwe, Kapiri, Kawe, Chisamba, Chibombo, and many more. This project had about 139 aggregators initially. Then at the end of the project, we had to ensure that we recruited more aggregators, and the total number at close of the project was at 199. And under this project, we had off-takers who were a total number of 13. These were the ones that were buying the commodities from the aggregators, and of course there were a few farmers who were selling direct to these off-takers. I think the whole purpose was to ensure that the small-scale farmers are provided with an alternative, market where they can sell their products, and this actually worked very well. Of course, under this project, like I mentioned earlier on, we also connected a lot of farmers to input suppliers, high-quality input suppliers for that matter. So under this we were able to do quite a number of sales and marketing platforms across the whole central region, and farmers benefited so much that they got high quality inputs, of which right now they have planted good varieties, and we are just waiting for the results in terms of better yields. Further than that, we were also able to do TSP promotions. By TSP, I mean tillage service promotions, where a number of farmers were exposed to conservation agriculture technologies, that is through minimum tillage. So a number of promotions took place in all the 12 districts, and farmers were taught on how to do land preparation. Then other than that, we also went into vetting what we are calling farmer service centers. So in the central region, about 54 farmer service centers were identified, and we are now in the process of vetting. So what is this farmer service center? The farmer service center is simply a one-stop shop. So the whole idea is that we want to ensure that the farmers do not travel long distances from their homesteads to go very far, like in towns, to look for inputs. So we want these farmer service centers to be within the locations where these farmers are. And of course, this farmer service center will ensure that the farmers access inputs and also agronomical services just there, mobile banking services, and many other things that, the farmer would actually find in town. So it's more or less like bringing closer all the services closer to the community. By so doing, I think under this project under this project, it will mean that we'll be able to reach what we are calling a last mile.
All right, welcome back, and of course you're watching the Conservation Farming Unit program that brings to you all things about farmers. I'm your host for the program, Rita Maluta, and of course just earlier on, Dr. Oliver Agabula and I were having a conversation on something called the Farm to Market Alliance, which is of course spearheaded by the CFU. And we have heard what Mr. Sulimba said, quite informative. He has told us what has been happening in the pilot program. He has highlighted that. But what is your role as CFU in this alliance? What do you do?
Yeah, just to allude to what Mr. Sulimba, our business manager, has talked about. Our role is to implement, the pilot project and Farm to Market Alliance. And I have to mention that a central region starts from areas like part of Lusaka. We are talking of Chongwe, Rufunsa, and also we are talking about Chiwombo, we are talking about Kawe, we are talking about part of Copper Belt, like Masaiti and Pongwe, as well as Mukushi and Serenje. So the pilot project is about identifying the stakeholders that we are able to work with in ensuring that we meet the objectives of Farm to Market Alliance, like Stanley has mentioned. So usually, of course, we've been in the field,
Yes.
and in the field we've identified what we call the aggregators. And after identifying the aggregators, we've also linked them, to off-takers, meaning that in the districts where we've worked with, we've also identified off-takers that we are able to work with, and the aggregators within those areas, as well as the agro dealers, because this Farm to Market Alliance, is working with the system, food chain, system that will be able, to ensure that our farmers complete, the cycle, of production, and marketing, and all that involved in the production of crops. So our main role really is been to go to the last mile. What we mean is that we needed to identify these players that we are working with in the remotest areas. Rita, as you are aware, most of these agro dealers are found in town, in districts, you understand. But we are not talking of farmers that are within town, but what of the farmers that are very far from towns, very far from the districts and so on. So those are the people that we are looking at, identifying market in those areas and providing, other services that are needed in those areas, so that we make, our agricultural, system sustainable.
When you go into the alliance, who are the aggregators in this alliance, and what is their role in the farm to market alliance? What role do they play?
Yes, thank you, Rita. And probably before I answer to that one, I can come in just to talk about farm to market alliance. Farm to market alliance also consists of Rabobank, consists of Bayer, Syngenta, Agra, World Food Program, and so on. So these are the players that are found within this. So now, when we are talking about the alliance, we are talking about the financial partners within the alliance who are able to back up or give financial support to those aggregators or to those agro dealers, that are in those various areas. For example, we are looking at, maybe they would want to expand their activities, or, so they need maybe financial support. Even these aggregators. So the financial partners within that alliance will be able to play that role. We have Syngenta, Bayer, these are seed, companies and chemical companies that will come in through, to support, such players that we are working with in terms of technical or, support, with various products. Now, when we are talking about aggregators, we are talking about the buyers who buy various crops, from our farmers. And these are the people that are scattered in these communities where they are. If you remember, Rita, I mentioned earlier on to say the challenges our farmers, have been facing has to do with the marketing. Because some of these people who come into these areas, farmers don't know where they come from. And some briefcase buyers, I don't know if that's the right term to use. Usually we call them briefcase buyers and so on. So we are trying to identify those and train them. So that when we train them, we put even stickers there, Farm to Market Alliance, and the names of the partners that are involved in this alliance, so that our farmers that we have worked with all these years will be able to know to say, Conservation Farming Unity identified these aggregators, and we can see even the poster is a partner. He belongs or is working under this umbrella of the alliance. So we are very sure that the market is okay for us, and we are sure that even if we bring the produce here, there will be no theft involved. As you are aware, Rita, with the evidence that we have in the communities where we work from, most of these people who come in, where farmers don't know where they're coming from, tune, these, scales and so on, where a farmer will lose out maybe in a bag 5 kg and so on. Maybe the farmer has brought 100 kg. It's so much for a farmer. It's a loss and so on. So we are talking about people that are transparent in the way they are doing business, and they are not only gaining, profits, but they are also ensuring that they market, according to ethics and, transparent in whatever, they are doing.
Okay, so earlier you did mention something about agro dealers. I know they play this big part in terms of farming for these farmers. Farmers who have access to the nearest agro dealers will benefit. The ones that are in the more remotest part of the country, however, sometimes tend to lose out and prefer to go to different methods. But in terms of the Farm to Market Alliance, what is the role of agro dealers? How have you managed to incorporate them into this alliance?
Thank you so much. The first thing that we did was to identify, these agro dealers, and for sure they are not found in all these places. So what we have done is that there are certain areas where these agro dealers are not found. So we've talked to agro dealers that are based, in towns, to set up what we call in-community agents. So they'll be able to take those produce to the in-community agents, and these in-community agents will be able to provide the services there. But we are not ending there. We would want to put up a system that we call a farm service center, a service center. So a service center is where an agro dealer will set up a one shop, shop, a one store shop, like Stanley mentioned, where these agro dealers will be able to provide a wide range of services and products, to our farmers. For example, apart from selling seed and chemicals, they may even add up, maybe providing the tillage service to the community. For example, those farmers who would want to do conservation agriculture, or they would want to do, weed management, and so on, using boom sprayers, and that requires a tractor and so on. So these agro dealers, who are called service centers, will be able to provide, will be able to be given the support, a technical support or a financial support to acquire that tractor needed to provide the service in that community. So the agro dealer will not only be dealing with those products like herbicides, the usual products we look at, the herbicides and so maize, seed and all that, but they'll go an extra mile, maybe providing mobile money services, in that community, so that our farmers are serviced, within the areas where they are.
Okay. Looking at the 2021-2022 farming season, which has been one of the most surprising ones for our farmers, is that we went from having no rainfall at all to having this heavy downpour of rainfall, where some of the parts of the country are even experiencing flooding. As the Conservation Farming Unit under this alliance, do you go the extra mile of telling and educating farmers? Because you have stated some of them are duped. Do you go the extra mile of educating farmers what to do at a time faced with such a season as this?
Thank you so much, Rita. You are speaking like an expert, in farming, and that is good. Yes, our role as conservation farming is to train our farmers. That is our major role. And together with other stakeholders, of course, the Minister of Agriculture and other stakeholders who are also playing a major role in ensuring that our small-scale farmers are supported. Technical know-how is critical, and this is one thing that we've invested in for many years and so on. So we provide, tillage services that are conducive. Though I may, mention that this alliance, is not only for conservation farmers. You understand that? That I have to mention so that our farmers understand. This alliance is for every farmer, whether a farmer is conventional or is doing conservation farming. We incorporate, because the essence of this program is to provide market to all the farmers. But now, talking about us as conservation farming, as implementers of this program, we've been so much, keen to talk about a resilient farming methods, to our farmers because of climate change. You understand? And this is one of the things that we've been doing for many years. And the training that we've offered our farmers is to ensure that they prepare land early. And when they prepare land early, like it has happened now, they plant early, apply all the nutrients early, plant early, and do all those activities that are needed. When we had the heavy rains like it is, the flooding and so on, for some of the crops that were well established because they were planted early, they are able to withstand. You understand? They are able to withstand. And the drainage systems that these tillage methods we use, a drainage, a kind of a system where water can be, move away, easily, from where the farms are. But there are certain instances where, there is such heavy flooding, maybe for a long time, and the crop is in the water. This is why we advise farmers to find other means of ensuring that they drain that water out of the field. And we may call this a disaster. You understand? There are certain things that we can find means of curbing, but there are certain areas that we call, disasters, where we have nothing that we can do about it. But one thing I can assure our farmers is that this is a workable, system. Conservation farming is a workable system. And then for those that are still in convention, I think they need to think about it, and see how they can try this system, and it's workable.
Now, we have moved from the farmer themselves, and we have taken it to the agro-dealers who are in between the farmers providing this produce. And now let's take it off to the off-takers themselves, who are part of this alliance. who are the off-takers and what is their role in terms of the alliance?
Thank you, and that is one of the mandate that we were given, by a Farm to Market Alliance to ensure that we identify these off-takers, and we had about 13 of them. We are talking about those, who deal with the finished products, and these we refer to millers. You understand, millers, and also those that deal with feeds, for animals and birds and so on. We are talking about brewers. We call them brewers. I don't know how you call them. Yeah, those that brew chiwuku and all those. So on.
Yeah.
So those are what we refer to as off-takers, and these aggregators, they sell to off-takers. You understand? Because the off-takers are the one who buy those commodities and do the rest of things that are needed to be done as finished products. So that is their role. So we've identified these aggregators that will give will provide a sustainable way of market to our farmers, so that it should not be a one-year relationship. So we are looking at dependable off-takers that will be able to link up with these aggregators, and they'll be able to, in coming years, for example, because this was just a pilot project, in the coming years, our farmers will be able even to be sure to say, if I plant this kind of a crop, it will be bought at this kind of a price. You understand? So these are the off-takers that we are working with. And the other thing, like I mentioned earlier on, are those aggregators that will be able to buy at a good price, to our farmers. And even if they get things from where farmers are, we are sure that they'll be able to pay back, to our farmers within a reasonable time. For your own information, Rita, the major buyers of these crops that we are talking about is the government. Is the government through the Food Reserve Agency. And, we need players, private players on the ground, to help the government in terms of meeting the demands, of our farmers. As you are aware, most of these small farmers there are many, compared to commercial farmers. So yes, so this is why we are there, to provide all these nitty, greedies, to our farmers.
It's clear that the Farm to Market Alliance looks at the smallest or the most average farmer to benefit from most of these markets and these bigger markets that they have to. But then part of this alliance is what you're calling tillage service provider. Who is a tillage service provider, and what do they do in this alliance?
Thank you so much. Zambia National Farmers Union says, this is a mother body, to farmers and agricultural companies. They say, no farmer, no food.
Exactly.
No farmer, no food.
And we start.
Yes. So we cannot have the market without production.
Exactly.
You understand? We cannot have the market without production. So now, when we are looking at production, we are looking at partners that will be able to provide the tillage service to our farmers. Because not all the farmers will have the implements to use. Maybe for a larger portion. When we are talking about small farmers, we have farmers, that are, having, bigger hectareages, maybe 50 hectareages, 100 hectareages, and so, but they do not have the market. We are working with them. We are working with them. We are not literally looking at small farmers like 1 lima or 1 hectare and so, but we are looking at all the category of those farmers who don't have the market, so that this alliance provides market for them. So now, when we are talking about the tillage service providers, these are business people within the communities where farmers are. They provide the tillage service to farmers at a fee. Most of these, they have plows. Others, like we've worked with, and those that we've engaged at Conservation Farming Unity, they have reapers, and provide this tillage service to our farmers before the onset of the rain. Before the onset of the rain. And the window period of providing this service starts all the way from May, June, and so on. They will be able to go to where farmers are and provide the tillage service. So this is one of the areas that we are inviting, those people who are business people. They may not necessarily be farmers, but they're just business people in those communities. Maybe they are in Lusaka, or Ndola, or Livingstone, but they are not where farms are, and they have tractors where they are. Bring these tractors, where farmers are, so that our farmers are able to benefit, from the tillage service provision, using, conservation agriculture technologies or other technologies, so that we increase the food productivity for our farmers on the ground.
That farmer who has obviously listened to us for the past few minutes that we have spoken is probably thinking, well, this is what I need as a farmer. And if in fact an intending farmer like me is also thinking, this is what I need to be part of, to be part of an alliance that looks at my needs and my benefits at the most. But then how can a farmer be part of this alliance? Because most people say, do you need to pay? Where do they have to go? Where are the officers to join to be part of this alliance?
Thank you so much for that question. Like I mentioned earlier on, this was a pilot project, to see how it will be able to work in Zambia. And Farm to Market Alliance is not only in Zambia, but even in other countries. And here in Zambia, it's been implemented before. It is on that now. It's on a wider scale. And we were doing these activities in Central Region, like I mentioned, the areas where we are. But I believe in coming months, Farm to Market, our role has ended as Conservation Farming Unit in January 31st. We ended our role in providing, the platform to our farmers in terms of the pilot project. But it is now scaling up, where other partners will get involved, not only in Central Region, but even in Eastern, even in Southern. This kind of work, will be in all those areas, and that our farmers can get through Conservation Farming Unity, for advice, and also they can link up with Farm to Market Alliance. They can Google and so on, or check on our offices, Conservation Farming Unity, and then we'll be able to guide them at our head office. Then we'll give the number, and then we'll be able to guide them on how they can benefit. They don't need to pay. The works of this Farm to Market Alliance has been supported by the Norwegian government through the World Food Program, and this alliance called Farm to Market Alliance. So it is paid for. So our farmers are able to benefit, through the support of the Norwegian government.
Okay. So now, what is the way forward? You have piloted this project. It's January 31st, 2022. What is the way forward for such an alliance?
The way forward is that these Farm to Market Alliance activities are not ending with us Conservation Farming Unity. But now it's rolling out, to other areas, like I mentioned, Southern, Eastern, and so on. I believe the Farm to Market Alliance is looking into this so that other partners also benefit and spearhead, this program. I believe Farm to Market Alliance will be a household where the farmers are, where it matters most, because without a farmer, there is no food.
So when we look at something as good as this, you'd want to think of sustainability and you want it to be sustained. What measures have you put in place as Conservation Farming Unit that even upon the 31st of January, maybe this project comes to an end, whenever it comes to an end as an alliance, that the relationship between the farmer and these aggregators, these off-takers, still continues, that this relationship should continue even without you being involved?
That is a very critical, question. We have record, for example, in the areas that we've worked with. We've, as Conservation Farming, for all these years, we've created that relationship, with our farmers. And I believe that it is critical of us to share the information to whoever, is going to take up, this role in the areas where we've operated in. And I believe that as Conservation Farming Unity, we have the record of all the aggregators, the off-takers, the agro-dealers that we've worked with. And I believe it is incumbent upon us, to share that information to whoever will take up this role, because our desire is to ensure that this does not die, but that where we ended, other partners, will be able to take it up.
Now, finally, now, Dr. Vlad, before I let you go, I just want to get your comment. At a time where it's been hard for the farmer, and farmers are, some of us, they are giving up on their produce, are saying, well, we might have poor yields, and of course the Ministry of Agriculture was just recently dispelling of fears of food insecurity, saying that we will not have food insecurity in the country and we'll continue the export of our biggest produce, happens to be maize. To that farmer out there, what can be that word of encouragement that you think, to keep you going for such a season as 2021-2022 farming season, just to keep them going in the hopes?
Yeah, that is the critical, question, and I believe that our farmers are going through a dry patch. What I mean is that they are going through, a difficult, situations. Certain farmers, I was looking at the pictures from southern province where, yes, where most of the crop, is been washed away and so on. So I believe we shouldn't give up. We shouldn't give up. There are certain areas that will lose the crop. There are certain areas that will sustain the crop. So at the end of the day, our farmers will be able to benefit in one way or the other. Let's do what we can. In areas like I mentioned, where we are able to drain the water out of our fields, if we are able to, let's do that. Let's do that. And I believe that the crops will be able to be sustained. And also, I want to encourage our farmers to say, climate change is real. Let our farmers change or shift from conventional kind of tillage to conservation farming because it is sustainable. Somehow, like I mentioned, the crops that those farmers that use this kind of system, the crops survived. Some of the crops that we visited, survived. But certain crops that, will not survive, are those in extreme, situations. But I believe at the end of the day, let's keep the hope. God is God of love, and He will be able to see us through.
All right, and we keep it going. Well, that brings us to the end of this week's episode of Conservation Farming. I have been your host, Rita Malwita.